Hello. Welcome to the Smile Revolution Show. And I'm Princess Wow, officially trademarked. Welcome. So let's see. I am a woman of many hats. I make hats. This is vintage, I added the pin. And I paint on clothing. I make jewelry. I'm an entertainer and do one-woman shows. Oh, I've got a one-woman show coming up November 9th at Pangea, New York City on the Lower East Side, 7 o'clock. I'm doing a save the date. It's going to be a happening. Really fun. It's going to be part autobiographical storytelling, interludes of original ukulele songs, written by Roland Musa and I, and let's see, Laura Molitor. Thanks, Laura. And John Cruth. And I think I'm going to have another song by Amy Rigby called Bangs, because I'm always wearing bangs, and she always wears bangs. So I'm waiting for it because she's recording it now. Haven't heard it yet, but John has and said I should sing it. So it might be part of my show. So let's see here. So save the date. There's Nancy. Hi, Nancy. And there's Laura. Thank you for coming live. Whoever's watching live on a replay, I have to say hi to both people. And I found this. This is something from, let's see, what was this? 2015. This is me with Princess Smiles. It was from the Corn Festival. I dressed us up. And I thought this was kind of fun. It ended up on the cover, of the Poughkeepsie Journal. And so it was fun. I don't know, I just think it's like a fun photo. So I just wanted to show you. And let's see. Okay, so I have some quotes here. Oh, here's my new friend. I got to put him on my car. And put him in my car. Isn't he cute? He, she, they. Yeah. And let's see. Hindu proverb: help your brother's boat across and your own will reach the shore. And it's about giving and receiving smiles and raising awareness to the healing power of a smile. Okay, this project I'm doing, and then the show. Okay, and I used to have a radio show. Oh, so this is the 175th show since March 2020 online, and I had a radio show years ago, if you've never seen my show and don't know. And that's when I started doing interview shows. And then, and I was interviewing Pete Seeger, Richie Havens, Arlo Guthrie, Buffy St. Marie, and a bunch of other local Woodstock musicians and other authors. Let's see. E. Cummings, one of my favorite poets, said the most wasted of days is one without laughter. Helen Keller said, remember, no effort that we make to obtain something beautiful is ever lost. Oh, yeah, Amy. Yes, Amy's coming on my show. Amy Rigby in September. She's recording her new song, her new album. And thank you. And so she'll be in my show in September. After she's in England, she said they're going to be in England for a month of August. Okay, let's see. Mark Twain: good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. This is the ideal life. Okay, okay. Let's see now. What else do I have here? Oscar Wilde said, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. And then Simon and Garfunkel: I've got nothing to do today but smile. And Harper Lee said, you rarely win, but sometimes you do. And then we've got here, I have the power of kindness. Okay. If you can be anything, be kind. That's unknown. William Shakespeare said, kindness nobler ever than revenge. And Mahatma Gandhi: the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And then, thanks, Laura, for getting me this book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being, by Rick Rubin. He's a well-known music producer. and I've been listening to it on Audible. And I love having the book, but it's so great because listening to it on Audible, he's actually reading it, and it's incredible. If you're an artist, or we're all artists really, but not but and but he says here, why make art? As you deepen your participation in the creative act, you may come across a paradox. Ultimately, the act of self-expression isn't really about you. Most who choose the artist's path don't have a choice. That's me. We feel compelled to engage, as if by some primal instinct, the same force that calls turtles toward the sea after hatching in the sand. We follow this instinct. To deny it is dispiriting, as if we are in violation of nature. If we zoom out, we see this blind impulse is always there, guiding our aim beyond ourselves. In the moment when we feel the work is taking shape, there's a dynamic surge followed by an urge to share, in the hopes of replicating that mysterious emotional charge in others. Okay, well, anyway, I could go on and on, but I'm not going to. But anyway, just give you a little bit of an idea. And let's see. So, what makes you smile? Well, recently I had the good fortune of meeting Rufus Wainwright, the singer-songwriter extraordinaire. And I actually had never gotten into him before. Yes. And my friend Karen Millman invited me to his concert at the Town Crier in Beacon, New York. And so I went, and I just absolutely loved his whole personality. I mean, he comes on stage and he's like, hi, and he's just like this big personality, and just he's so cool, and fell in love with his music. And now I'm totally obsessed. So he's making me smile. I'm like, I got his new album, Folk Rockacy, I think that's what it's called. And returning to his roots of his family, who were well-known folk singers, Loudon Wainwright III, and his mother, Kate McGarrigle. I hope I pronounced it right, from Montreal. So anyway, I'm totally obsessed with him, and I just saw his an early documentary of him from like 20 years ago, and they're doing a new one now. But somebody's filming a new one now. But anyway, if you haven't checked out his music, he's amazing. Okay, now, have you ever had an experience where there's just like a seeming like coincidence, like you weren't planning, you have no idea this something was going to happen, it like changed your life or like inspired you? Like, well, why did that just happen? Oh, Lori's on. Hi, Lori. Oh, good. Okay, great. So I was just talking about coincidences. Like, have you ever had something that happened that was like totally out of left field, and you're like, well, why did that just happen? So recently, actually, you ever heard of Hal Willner? Well, he was a very well-known music producer, and he actually was a music director at Saturday Night Live, and he produced some singer-songwriter albums, but not that often. And anyway, like next week, I have Mary Lee Cortez. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's amazing. And she actually, her album that's just coming out recently, Hal Willner produced it before he passed on, which was during COVID. And I met him. Okay, so my coincidence is, right. So my coincidence was that at the end of February, I was on my way to the city on the bus into the city. I live in the Hudson Valley. And there was this, I was sitting behind this guy with this comedian, and he's like talking for 2 hours. And it was like the most fascinating conversation I've ever heard in my life. The guy was like, he kept talking about Saturday Night Live. And Richard Barone, my friend Richard, whatever, it's his cousin, works for Saturday Night Live. And so they were pitching me on there. And anyway, so it was like Saturday Night Live was on my mind at that time. And he kept talking about like he was working on Saturday Night Live. And anyway, he was just like incredible. And so we get off the bus. We're getting off the bus, and I just said hello. I knew it was him, Hal Willner. And he was talking to this comedian sitting with him. And anyway, I just said, I know Lori, whatever. So it was just like, anyway, it was just, hopefully it's okay. I'm talking about this on my show. But anyway, and then a month later, beginning of April, he passed on from COVID. But so it was kind of just like weird how like I did meet him for a moment. And that was just one of my out of this world like coincidences. And so Mary Lee Cortez next week, she actually worked with him, and as I said, and so Okay, so this week, tonight, I've got Steve Addabbo, and I'll give you a little bit of a bio on him. Okay, so Steve, and I've known him for years through Richard Brown because Richard works with him a lot. And actually, Richard is Richard's producing a concert in November. It's almost sold out at Carnegie Hall, and Steve Addabbo is the music director. So he's best known as a Grammy-winning producer, musician, writer, recording engineer, and owner of Shelter Island Sound Recording Studio in New York City. Steve's production and engineering work on Suzanne Vega's first two albums set a new standard for the singer-songwriter genre. Suzanne's second album, Solitude Standing, with the worldwide hits Luka and Tom's Diner, went multi-platinum. Steve also co-produced Shawn Colvin's Grammy Award-winning debut album, Steady On. Recent projects include producing an EP for The Voice semifinalists Jim and Sasha Allen on Imperial Records, mixing Bob Dylan's Springtime in New York and other box sets for the ongoing Bootleg Series, including the Grammy-winning The Cutting Edge, tribute to a Songpoet, the songs of Eric Andersen performed by 42 artists, released in May 2023. And Richard Brown's on that too. Steve's first album of his own material was released in 2016. I'm going to play one of his songs. It's his only album so far, but he's working on a new one, he says. So anyway, I could go on and on, but anyway, actually, before I have him on, I'm going to play a song from his only album, and I have it. And it was meant to be that I met Hal Wilner. Okay, I'm going to play his song, and then I'm going to bring him on. Okay, hold it one sec. Okay, wait a second. Okay, here we go.
You stare down the long slide. Your heart is frozen like ice. You feel sad, that's too bad, 'cause this is paradise. Life is hard, make no mistake. It's all a roll of the dice. You lick a wound, you feed the flame, here in paradise. It's all good, it's all right. We should be terrified. The truth is dire, we're down to the wire. Here in paradise, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love can strike once or twice. A random stranger is nice. She breaks your heart, a false start. Yes, this is paradise. You got no money, it's not funny. Placing bets has a price. We all know how it goes here in paradise. It's all good, it's all right. We should be terrified. The truth is dire, we're down to the wire. Here in paradise, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I hope you like that. Okay. So let's see. There's some comments here. Oh, Abby's on. Oh, good. Oh, good. Thanks, Abby. Yay, Gumby. Yeah, Gumby likes to get in on the action. Okay. So here we go on my interview with Steve Addabbo.
Likewise.
I haven't seen you since, well, actually, recently we saw each other at
Yeah,
Eric
yeah,
Andersen,
Yeah, it was up at
Town Crier.
Town Crier, right?
Yeah, it was just like, what, a few weeks ago? It was maybe a few weeks
in
ago.
the middle of June. No, at beginning of June. When did we?
I don't know, but it was recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, that was great. It's my first time meeting him. Thanks for introducing me.
Oh, okay, right. It's hard to keep track of who knows who. And
I
who's
know,
gonna-
exactly.
I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Right. So anyway, so it was good to meet him. And he's the one, Eric is the one who suggested our interview.
Okay.
Remember?
Yep, sure. We should do Steve. Yeah, of course.
And I said, yeah, definitely. So anyway, so here we are.
Great.
And I never knew. It's like I've known you for years because of Richard Barone, right?
Sure.
Many concerts. But I never knew all your background.
Who is this guy?
Like, who is this guy? You're so like low key and kind of, humble. It's like I just had no idea until I did a deep dive for this interview.
Uh-oh.
All the your
I
accolades.
know.
Your background is like incredible.
Yeah,
So
I've been
let's start with, I've learned so much. So let's start with, okay, you opened your band. You had a country trio that you opened for Bruce Springsteen in 73.
Well, yeah, that was actually before the country trio. That was a band called Arbuckle. We were actually 6 pieces, but
Oh,
yeah, we were on a small record. I was in college and I was in this band and I had started writing songs, and my neighbor on my college dorm also started writing songs, and we formed a folk duo. And as we progressed, he also had a rock and roll band back in Brooklyn. And at one point we merged the two and started doing our original material with the band. And I was still in college, in my senior year of college, or almost my senior year of college. And we literally got a record deal. And
wow.
on Music Core Records. And I was driving from my college, which was Stony Brook University out on the island, to Media Sound to do our first record. So that band, we had a manager and everything. We did pretty well for a while. And one of the gigs that we had was opening up for this guy named Bruce Springsteen, who was doing a show in Philadelphia right after his first record. And it was 600-seat theater called the Roxy Theater. I forget what area
Wow.
in Philly it was, like a 600-seat theater, small. And he drew about 250 people, 300 people. I mean, it was barely half full at all. And we opened up for him, and up in the dressing room before the show, he was jamming and took out my guitar and he kind of handed me a wire, and Clarence was in the back. And so, yeah, that was my Bruce Springsteen story. And
But he wasn't famous yet.
no, he was struggling, actually. The record company was like that happy. He only sold 30,000 records, the first record. And he was like,
Right.
But this is before, I think this was right after Greetings from Asbury Park. And then the next album really did much better, the E Street Band. And so as I went along in my life, my band that eventually broke up, and was trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. And part of it was playing with this country trio, and part of it was driving a taxi cab. And while I'm driving a taxi cab to pay the rent in Brooklyn, I go to a newsstand, and who's on the cover of Newsweek magazine but Bruce Springsteen? And I'm like,
That's amazing.
what the heck is going on?
No, wait, when was that?
Well,
Like
this
the
had to
next
be
year?
73, 74,
Oh, so he just broke right after.
He
like,
just
kind of-
broke, like the next album he broke
That's amazing.
big time, so that was just to watch that and
Mm.
to, see it. And it's like, wow, this can really happen. Look at that. But he was great. I mean, the band was just, he totally blew us out of the water. It was almost embarrassing after that. But he came down, watched our whole set. He came up, he complimented my guitar playing.
That's really
And then he came on and literally, was like we were in first grade and he had the PhD. It was
Right,
just
right.
it was off the charts. The band, it was so great. So
Oh, that's so cool. That's really
yeah,
neat.
it was cool. It was a great
That's
moment.
really
Great
neat.
memory.
I'm gonna put your information up.
Okay.
Okay, and you had a band. Your stage name was Boots.
Boots. That was when we started this country thing because my
Yeah, right.
the drummer from my previous band, the one that had the record deal, his father was a country music agent in Brooklyn.
Oh.
This is 60s, 70s, or 60s, even earlier, 50s, 60s. And he had a whole bunch of Hank Williams records. And I like country music. I like Chet Atkins, the way he played guitar and all that stuff. So we started doing Hank Williams songs as a trio, guitar, bass, and drums. And we would play Old Lunny's and City Limits and Lone Star Cafe. And in those days, mid 70s was the kind of urban cowboy phase, New York City. Everybody was wearing cowboy boots. WHN was big radio station, 1050 AM, playing country music. And all of us, me, Larry Campbell, Shawn, Colvin, Lucy, we were all playing these country bars, making a living in the city. And it was really a great time.
Oh, wow. And what about, how did you meet Suzanne Vega?
That was later. That's a bit.
That was later. Okay.
Yeah, we still got a way to go before we get there. But
okay.
Yeah, but that was that was like the mid 70s in the city, and it was an incredible time, and because we were playing music 5-6 nights a week in the city, and our rents were nothing back then, so you could actually do it, and metal, and a lot of the core people I still know today. Like I said, we were all playing the same circuit. It was Tony Garnier, Larry Campbell, Shawn Colvin, Patty Scalfa. I mean, all these people were playing these clubs because that was where we were. That's where we were working it out. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because Clifford Carter.
Yeah, of course, Cliff Carter. Sure.
Yeah, so Clifford is married to Deborah. Her name now is Denise. I grew up with his wife.
Okay.
In Baltimore, Denise Rubin Carter. Anyway, so Clifford, he dated Patty in high school. Did you know that?
Oh no, that I didn't know.
Oh, I don't know if I should be saying this on public record, but that's okay.
That's
okay. So that's so at their wedding, Bruce and Patty were there at their wedding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was fun because even those days, especially when we were playing City Limits, there was Susie Kirshner, now Susie Tyrell, who goes out, since she's buddies with Patty.
Right.
She got her on the Springsteen tour, and she's playing fiddle and also, I'll think of her name in a minute. But
my other friend. Yeah, I'm friends with the third one. I know. Okay, me too. I know. The three of them.
I know her really well too. But
me too. Okay, I know. Okay, I gotta call. I gotta contact her. I know. It's like okay, it'll come to us in a minute.
I just saw her picture on Facebook too the other day. That's all right. No picture with her and Carole King at the Red Lion or something. It's really cool. But so that's how it. That's what was going on in those days in the 70s and late mid 70s, and so that was a lot of fun. So and keep in touch with all these people, from that period is really kind of fun too. So
yeah, that's great. Okay, so then all right, so you got a job at the Hit Factory in 72 as a trainee.
77.
Oh, 77. Oh, I wrote it wrong down. Okay, I wrote it down wrong. Okay.
Yeah, terrible handwriting, obviously.
I guess so. I just wrote it down wrong. Okay, so 77.
All right.
Okay.
And that was because at a certain point, I was we were working in the city, but we weren't working all the time. A lot of times you had to go out of town still and stuff. And I just really, I wasn't cut out to be a road musician, I guess. I just really didn't like it. And had done a couple of sessions here and there at good studios, and I'd be getting in a van going to Virginia or something to play in some podunk club, and the engineer and producer were going home, and I said, wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture? So I had done a session, after a while I had after the country phase kind of fizzled out a little bit, and the trio expanded to a quartet, and we wound up backing up famous band from the 60s called The Happenings, two singers who had hits with see you in September, and I got Rhythm. And they were looking for a self-contained band, and it was really good money and steady work from like 75 to 77. That's what I was doing, but it was kind of more of a show type band. And after like the second year of that, I was like, I really don't want to be doing this anymore. But they had done a session at the Hit Factory, and sitting there after one of the sessions, I called up the engineer I worked with and said, "How do I get a job there? I mean, what do you got to do to work there?" And he goes, "Well, you got to know something." I go, "Well, I went to school. I've got an engineering degree, and I have most of a music major, and I'm a good guitar player." And he goes, "Come right down." And they hired me on the spot because I walked in with a resume with a college degree. I mean, not many people did that in recording studio days, in engineering, in electrical engineering. So they hired me on the spot, and I got trained to be a maintenance tech, which means you take care of all the equipment, make sure it runs, consoles, tape machines, buzzes in the middle of a session. You go in and you have to, suss it out and keep the session going. And I was like a duck to water. That's where I should be. I just fell right into it. I was really good at it. I found it exciting, and I worked crazy hours there, be like 12, 16-hour shifts sometime, but it was whirlwind time, there's so many big stuff.
Recorded there, right? Yeah.
I can't even remember Hall & Oates, Tom Scott, Rick Derringer. I can't even remember it, so long ago. And it was Tim
Buckley?
No, not Buckley. No, much freakier.
Gordon?
The guy who I can't think. I'm a terrible interview. I don't remember all this stuff.
That's okay. I remember the woman, the singer. Where actually, let's just have Lisa Lowell.
Lisa Lowell.
Lisa Lowell was a friend of mine.
You got it. Yeah,
Lisa Lowell.
Yeah, I got to bring her in for a few sessions later on in the world. But Tim Curry, thank you very much.
Oh, Tim Curry. Okay.
Yeah, and that's amazing. Just forget about it, and it comes to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, so many sessions like that, and Janice Ian and Donna Summer, and just making sure everything was right for all these people. So I really got to see the inside of the world I wanted to really be part of. Because I think I always wanted to make records. That was kind of my goal, I mean, from the early days of buying my first singles and stuff, it was just a magical thing, and I had to do it. And
all right, so how did you meet? Okay, so how did you meet? Oh, wait, so then you went from there to Celestial Sounds or Sterling?
First I went to Sterling, right? So I was the whiz kid at Hit Factory for a couple of years, and within 6 months I was chief of the department, so I was really in charge of everything. And then Sterling Sound had heard about me through the grapevine, that there was this young good tick, and then they were looking for someone, and I went over there, and it was just like so calm and so incredible, and they were going to build some mix rooms, and I really liked the owner, Lee Holko, and I had kind of run into a little trouble with Eddie, and Eddie Germano is notorious for burning through engineers and techs and everything, because he was just a slave driver and whatever. So my time had come to leave Hit Factory, and Sterling just was, I just walked out of Hit Factory and went to Sterling the next day, and it was no big deal. And so I stayed there for about 5 years. And during that time, another little studio called Celestial Sounds had opened on the east side. And I was still jonesing to make music, because now I'm at Sterling Sound, which is a beautiful mastering studio, but they don't record there, So after a certain point, it's like, mastering is a bit more of the last technical stage before the actual records are made and put in their jackets and sent out. Right. So it was great to learn the art of mastering and how the lathes work and cutting records, and another part of the magic of all this music stuff. But then at a certain point, and then they decided they weren't going to build a mix room. So it was like, so I'm stuck and I'm in a job that, the people are great there. I loved it, but it wasn't what I really wanted to be doing. So this other small studio, Celestial, had opened up on the east side, and once again through the grapevine, they'd heard about me, and I went over there, and they were starting out, didn't have a lot of money, and I had a good job at Sterling, and I just agreed to kind of moonlight at Celestial as a barter system. I'll use this. Can I use the studio, and I'll keep it running for you, but when it's empty, let me use the studio for free. And it was a great deal for them. It was a great deal for me.
That's great.
And with Sterling, I convinced them to get me a beeper. So if I was doing a session at Celestial and something went wrong with Sterling, I could get back over there or something. And everyone was happy. And that was really the beginning of me learning to really engineer and produce records, because I was bringing in my old friends, like John Gordon, who was also part of the country music scene in the city. And that's how we met. And he's the guy who eventually played the guitar solo on Luka and joined Suzanne's band. So it was a nice community friendship thing. So that was pretty much from middle of 79 to like 85.
All right. Now, okay. So and then you formed a company with Ron Fierstein.
Right. So that basically what had happened then was I had been using my studio time at Celestial to produce my friend's band, John Gordon. Supposedly on one of John's sessions, Madonna came in to sing backup. I don't even remember, but at that point she was a nobody.
Okay.
Another girl from the music building on 8th Avenue.
Right.
Struggling to get through. And John, I think, was producing some demos for her. So we were all trying to help each other out, trying to get somewhere. And John's writing stuff and I'm producing for him in engineering and working on stuff together. And I'm doing my own tracks, trying to write my own, I've been writing my own stuff. I was writing songs since I was 15 years old. And so things just kept churning along. And that band that I had in college with that, the guy who was writing songs with, that was Ron Fierstein at Stony Brook. So we had met. So we knew each other from college.
Oh.
He went off to law school after college and became a lawyer and did really well and worked at a big firm. He worked on the Polaroid Kodak case. Was not one of the lead lawyers, but he was a young lawyer at that point. He was very instrumental in helping that case be won for Polaroid. And we ran into each other in Chinatown stuff, and he goes, let's have lunch. And he sits down and we have him talking. He goes, I can't stand being a lawyer. I want to get back into music. I can't do this,
Mm-hmm.
And he knew what I was doing. I was trying to demo bands and at Sterling, I got to meet a lot of the A&R people because they're the ones that would bring in the masters to be mastered. And I was starting to understand that, you give these guys a tape and then they decide if they like it and you get a record. Yeah. So that was the way it worked. And it was like, okay. So I really got to see the inside there too. And I knew some of the, and I started submitting like John's tape to a couple of the A&R people I knew there, and they didn't know I had no track record. They didn't know who I was. I was the guy with the soldering iron in the back. So, but you keep at it, and so Ryan says, let's form a company. I'll do the business. You keep doing what you're doing. We'll try to find an artist to produce and manage, and. So that sounded good to me, there's no strings attached. And his brother Harv he's Ron's younger brother's Harvey Fierstein, by the way. So Harvey's career was just starting to take off, so he was kind of helping him out a little bit too. So it was a great time for Ron.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And because I remember Harvey was Ron's weird little brother, in college.
Right.
Go see these plays and. Right. Balance, but anyway, so at a certain point you think things just line up for a reason. And Ron had a friend who knew of this girl who played in the Barnard coffee houses. He says, she's not bad, pretty good. She got a little press in Newsday, and Pete Fornatello's picked up on her on his Sunday morning folk music show on WNEW, and. And so we went down to see her at Folk City. She was opening up for somebody. And I was pretty impressed. She was definitely good. And definitely she came out. The first thing she did was this a cappella song, in her tuxedo jacket. It was Tom's Diner. And so we went up, we got introduced afterwards. And we were like, I could feel like she was looking at us like, who are you guys? You have no track record. You never managed anybody. You never really produced anybody. But, I had the access to the free studio time at Celestial. So basically it was just come to the studio, no strings attached. You can own the tapes. We just want to see if there's anything there. And so she did. And she came up to Celestial one night when I had the studio. and she sat down and played 8 out of the 10 songs on her first album. And just, it was great. And I still have that tape to this day, you know, and I'm convincing her to put it out, trying to convince her to put it out.
Oh,
It's
wow.
wonderful. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And
All right, so we're talking about Suzanne Vega.
Suzanne Vega, this is right. I just keep saying
okay.
Suzanne like everybody knows who I'm talking about, right?
Right. Okay.
And so that was the beginning. So we started working together. I started producing her demos in the studio, also at home in my 4-track studio. I started playing live gigs with her. You know, we started just making the Suzanne Vega sound. And I invited my buddy John Gordon, so it was the 3 of us. And John and I would switch off on guitar and some bass synthesizer and stuff like that. And we started to really do well. And she was playing, you know, places like Speakeasy. And I guess we even had a gig at the Bottom Line. We opened up for somebody. Mostly the Speakeasy and Folk City a lot. We played a lot of gigs at Folk City too.
Uh-huh.
And the crowds are starting to grow. I mean, people were really starting to show up. And the sound was a fresh sound because I never really considered her a folk musician because she doesn't play those traditional chords that much. She plays her clusters up and down the neck.
Clusters, right.
The clusters. And but with very definitive, distinct style, I thought. I mean, it's like, I can't play like that, you know. I mean, she has her own thing. And but it really started to gel, and we were playing gigs and getting better. And at the time, you know, Ron was behind the scenes trying to figure out, and we're doing demos and submitting them and getting turned down by everybody. I mean, literally, you know, it's like Girl with a Guitar in 1984. No, we want a hair band with a drum machine, you know, because synthesizers and drum machines were just coming up at that point. It was very, very in, and we were like, Girl with a Guitar. I don't know about that. So we were up against it, and but we kept at it and kept playing around. And you know, at one point we'd gotten this long glowing rejection from A&M Records because Ron and I wanted to get her on A&M. We thought that was the right label, artist oriented.
Right. Yeah.
In those days, Cat Stevens.
I know everybody. I watched a whole documentary about A&M. They were really happening.
What a beautiful company, you know.
Yeah.
Herb Alpert, and they were both great people, really nice to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we got this amazing letter back from the A&R guy in the West Coast saying how she has no sense of melody and this will never work. But it was like a long letter. It's like, why did this guy write this much? So it was almost like one of those classic letters you're going to hang up in the office. And so anyway, you know, we didn't get discouraged. We figured we'd find an indie label, maybe Rounder Records will put us out, you know, something like that. We weren't, but we were still hoping for bigger. And then we were playing a gig at Folk City. Once again, it was just myself, John, and Suzanne, I believe, trio. And now that name's going to fly out of my head right now. It can't. Come on.
Wait a minute. Wait a second.
You have it there?
David Geffen. Wait, no. Wait. The New York Times Review.
Yeah, New York Times Review he's now the film critic.
Wait a minute.
Tell me you have it.
Wait a minute.
Stephen
Holden.
There you go. Thank you very much. Stephen
My
Holden.
notes.
Thank you for remembering what I no longer do. But anyway, so Stephen Holden was in the audience, and he, next day in the Times, as a review of the show, calls her the heir to the Joni Mitchell throne in the New York Times. And that was a game changer.
That's amazing.
You know, I'm all of a sudden, you know, A&M's going to start to take notice because A&M was at least, they'd given us a couple of $1,000 to make a better demo so we could hire some more musicians and all that stuff. But they still were like, I don't know, maybe we'll give you a small deal. And then, you know, the name you mentioned, David Geffen, gets a hold of the New York Times and he goes, why don't I have this demo? And he tracks down Ron somehow. I don't know how, but he tracks down. And so I'm still remember this so vividly. I'm in my shop in Sterling Sound. This is, I guess, 1984. And, you know, Ron calls me and he goes, what are you doing tomorrow afternoon? I go, what do you mean? He goes, David Geffen wants us in his apartment tomorrow at 4:00. I said, I'll be there. I shut off my soldering iron. I just sat there and went, oh my God. You know, And so there we were, Ron and Steve, without any track record. We had a bidding war between Geffen Records and A&M.
That's amazing.
To get Suzanne.
That is so cool.
And but we still stuck to our guns about A&M. I mean, Geffen made it very difficult. They were giving a lot of money and and sweet deal, but we kind of felt that we were going to be pushed out of the picture somehow with them.
Right. Yeah.
And the thing was, that was why we went with A&M. We said, listen, as long as we have creative control, and Ron's the manager, I'm the producer. Get me a co-producer because you don't know, who. I've never done anything before. At least they didn't think so. And that's where Lenny Kay came in because Nancy Jeffries, who was one of the people who signed us, him, and she figured the Patti Smith connection might make sense. And Lenny was a great guy. We're still great friends to this day. So, and that worked out beautifully. And he let me do my thing. He was there, encouraged Suzanne, and it was just a great, because I was taking on a lot. I was, I was engineering the whole record, plus playing some guitar, plus producing. So having a co-producer, on my first album was not a bad thing. So, and it was great. So, and and then kaboom, we had a first record out, we did it, and I did it at Celestial Sounds, so it was all good homespun. John Gordon played on it, and we had Sue Evans, a great percussionist drummer, and Charlie Roth, who played keyboards, was one of Lenny's friends, and A&M was like, if you guys sell 30,000 records, we'll be really happy this time. And we wound up having a hit in England and Europe with Marlena on the Wall. It didn't do so well here, but we still sold like 90,000 records in America alone. And I'm not even sure what we did on our first one in Europe. But, we were in England. We missed Top of the Pops by one. I think it went to number 21 in England, and did really well in Holland and Israel and Germany. And to this day, her fan base is so much stronger in Europe. I think she's over there right now. She tours every summer, and good gigs too, not just small gigs. So
that's great. All these years later, she's still very popular over
there. Yeah, she deserves it. She's very talented, and she works hard. And
are you still connected to her?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we have lunch every once in a while. Maybe once a year we get around to it to think up our schedules. But and when we played that gig at the Museum of the City of New York, that was incredible because I hadn't actually physically played with her in over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
So, when Richard invited her, and I said, well, ask
Richard
her.
Barone. We have to mention, it's Richard Barone.
That's never who Richard is now. It's Richard Barone.
We know I know who Richard is, but Richard Barone, yes. That's how we know each other.
I get pissed at interviews when people are interviewing. Who are they talking to? Who are they talking about? I don't even know who they're interviewing. At least you got my name on the screen here. But anyway.
All right. So Richard Barone, just so you all know, whoever's watching live or on replay, that's how Steve and I met years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Richard was on the scene for a long time, and it turns out he was, after his band, the Bongos from Hoboken, broke up, he went solo.
Right.
And he was on an early, I guess, those 1988 tours that Suzanne was doing, I think in Europe even. He'll know.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Yeah. So that was kind of when I first met him, although, he was the opening act and we were involved with Suzanne. So I didn't really get to know him that well, but I, obviously knew of him from that. And then as time went on, I got my own studio in the city because, we had a big hit record, won the second one with Luka, and sold 2.5 million records worldwide.
Wow. So that's when you got your own studio.
Yeah. So it was after that, we decided to invest, and Celestial Sound was going out of business.
Going out of business. So you bought a lot.
Trying to sell the studio, and I'm like, I'm like waiting around a month or two, and I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I not buying this place? I know every nook and cranny in it. I know every wire in the place. And it was a complete fire sale steal, compared to what that equipment's worth today.
Right.
Beautiful stuff. So yeah, it was like, okay. And I just gotten, I decided to invest my own money that I had gotten in a house out here on Shelter Island. And it had a big basement. So it was like, okay, let's get a couple of trucks. And we took everything out of that place that we could get our hands on, you know, stuff from the walls, outlets. I mean, you name it. We took everything and loaded up a couple of trucks and started Shelter Island Sound in my basement out in Shelter Island.
So you bought the house with the proceeds, what you earned from that.
Yeah. You know,
That's really
I
cool.
got a nice down payment. So at least I invested my money in supposed
That's great. That's really good.
Yeah.
And then you bought your studio. So that's when you started Shelter Island Studio. And
Yeah.
when was that? In the
1990. And on base, no, even early, about 89, I think. I
89?
started the studio out here. And then but to have a studio out in Shelter Island, like you had to put people up, you had to do I did a bunch of work out here. We did a couple of David Massengill albums. I worked we started Shawn Colvin Steady On out at this house, you know.
Is that where you are now?
That's where I am right now. Yeah, I kind of played hooky today. I was going to go into the studio.
Hooky today, okay.
But it was so nice. It was like, you know, and I can do this from here. I'll go. I'm going to go back in later tonight, and then I'll have a horn section coming tomorrow at the studio, so that's exciting. That should be fun.
So wait, how many years were you out in Shelter Island with your?
Well, the studio was only here for about a year and a half, 2 years.
Oh, okay. And then you moved everything to the city. You got to
because then it was like, you know, we had done really well. We were starting to take on more. Ron was starting to take on more management clients. We had Shawn. I had just gotten Shawn Colvin her deal on Sony Columbia. And so I was involved in producing that record too with John Leventhal, and we started that record here. I mean, I still remember the 4 blank rolls of 2-inch tape on my kitchen table out there, you know, and we started working on Steady On, which wound up winning a Grammy that year for Best Folk Album, you know, and Shawn was someone I had known from that circuit, you know,
years back.
The country circuit, yeah, you know, and she'd been on a couple of sessions. And yeah, so it's all, you know, you don't know what you're doing at the time you're doing it, but somehow it matters later, you know.
Okay, now how did you get involved? What?
You can't plan this. You can't plan this stuff.
I know, things just unfold. Okay, so how did you get involved with Bob Dylan box sets?
Oh, that's a big jump. Yeah, but that's still actually, that we just talked about Shawn Colvin. So when I had gotten Shawn her deal, it was funny because I had gone in. I'd just done a record with Eric Andersen because Ron and I were both big Eric Andersen fans, and we met him through the scene at the Folk City 25th anniversary or something, and introduced ourselves and wanted to get Eric back on track. And so we did Ghosts Upon the Road, which we did apart from the city. We mixed it out when the studio was still here in Shelter Island, and then right after that, I went back to Columbia Columbia, I guess at the time, and with Eric's tapes, you know, because Eric was on, and Blue River was a pretty big hit for him on Sony Columbia, and so I figured I'd try to get Eric back on, and then they said, well, they weren't interested in signing Eric, but what else you got? I had Shawn Colvin's tape in my pocket, you know, the demo tape she had done with Leventhal. And I said, well, I got this girl, Shawn Colvin. It's pretty great. And he had heard of her, and this is Joe McEwen, A&R, and we flew down to Virginia to that club, and that's another name I forgot also at the on that other interview. And he signed her, and so within like 2 years we had Shawn Colvin on Columbia and Suzanne on A&M, you know.
Wow.
And it was just a crazy time, and so. Shawn Colvin's product manager was Steve Berkowitz, he handles the whole project. I met Steve back then. He knew of me. He had gone on to become a full-fledged A&R person, had signed Jeff Buckley to Sony.
Wow.
And so before they made the Grace album, they needed what they call a library session. It was basically, what has he got? You know, so we put him in the studio with Steve for 3 days and just let the tapes roll. No production, just let him do what he wants to do. And that's what those first Jeff Buckley sessions were. And Berkowitz was there, and I was there. It was just the 3 of us. We had a great time.
That's amazing.
We had a great time. And you know, the first day he was kind of nervous and trying to get everything right. And then we kind of loosened him up, and then he just kind of wailed. And so I had 3 days of tapes of him just solo. And then they did the record. And then when it's time for his next, they did Grace, and then when it was time for his next record, he had that horrible accident, in the river, and that was it. So that was all we had.
That's amazing.
He didn't get to do that next record, so all they really had was the Grace album and my sessions.
That's incredible.
So it actually became known as the Addabbo sessions on the web way back then, because like, where are these? How come these aren't coming out? We've heard of them. And so finally the mother agreed, and we got together, and they picked out a bunch of stuff, and it was all live. I didn't have to mix it. It was all just live 2-track tapes. So what he heard in headphones is what you hear on that album.
That's amazing.
So magical,
That's incredible. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and so Steve Berkowitz also was overseeing all the box sets and the bootleg tapes for Sony. So they gave me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was the connection. Once again, so Shawn Colvin playing at City Limits equals Bob Dylan box sets.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah.
Right? So that's that's the way this shit happens. Excuse me. Yeah. And so that was how that started. They gave me 1 or 2 singles to mix, and I guess they liked it. And the next thing I did was another self-portrait, and then we did the big box set that won the Grammy, Cutting Edge, 18 CDs. I mean, I must have mixed thousands of Bob Dylan songs.
That's incredible. So are you still working on that?
Well, I think since he sold his catalog and stuff, they're not
right.
I'll see what Columbia. I mean, I have a feeling there's going to be some more, but there wasn't anything this year.
Right. Okay. You're probably going to be sold the cat. Yeah. So you've also worked with Bobby McFerrin.
Well, yeah, he would come into the session, as a session player. I mean, I didn't work as a producer, but as an engineer for him, for sure.
And Loudon Wainwright III.
Yeah, that was something with 11th Hour. We did that way back. That was another one. We worked on this Little Ships record.
Okay.
I think I mixed part of that.
Huh?
I think I mixed that record for him.
Okay. And then Dora Williams, I know. She lives up near me here.
Right. Well, Dar was, once we had Suzanne and Shawn, then Dar was looking for management. So Ron took her on.
Oh.
Yeah. So she was managed by Ron for a while. And I didn't do that much production work with her because she kind of had her production team together, but I did mix she has a record, something with green in it. I forget what it's called now, but beautiful record.
Oh, she's amazing. She's like really
great. So but I helped her do a live record too. I recorded a live show for her, I believe.
Okay. Oh, cool. And what about Olivia Newton-John? Well,
that was kind of I think there was two sessions I did with her. She came in, she had done a what's Amy's name? Amy's last name. Amy Sky was someone I had worked with, a Canadian singer-songwriter, pretty successful. She'd set me out, and we had done a track. We'd co-written a song together. And then Amy was good friends with Olivia, and they had done, I think, one of these Washington, those shows in Washington, D.C. where the president's there, and what are they, and it's a whole big deal. And it was a Christmas show, and for some reason the sound wasn't very good, and she wanted to re-record her part for it. So, and she was going to be in New York, and Amy knew me, so she brought her into the studio, and she was delightful. And I think she came one more time for something else. I don't exactly remember, but it wasn't like a huge amount of work, but it was stuff that it needed to be done, and it came out good. So she was very happy. Great.
Oh, so I want to mention your album, your CD.
Oh yes,
you're so busy that this is
I did. Right, thank you. Yeah, somehow I found time to. I'd always been writing songs, and it's just, in this world, I'm the last one I get to.
I know, right? Well, I love your album. Your CD is great. Yeah. I mean, you're so talented, and it's like so great to have one of your CDs or your only CD you've done.
That's my only one. I have a couple of new things in the
works.
Yeah, I've got one that's pretty much done. I got to figure out a video for it before.
Good. Okay, great. That's really cool.
That's going to be a good one. It's going to just be a single. I don't think I have a whole album together yet.
Okay. But then this, of course, our friend Richard Barone.
Oh, our friend Richard Barone. That was a beautiful record we got to work with.
It's a great album. I love this record. It's it's the Sorrows and Promises, Greenwich Village in the 60s, which is his amazing book.
Yeah, I know. Incredible,
Incredible book. I've interviewed Richard about his book. Yeah, there it is. I've read the entire book.
Yeah. I'm almost. I got a bookmark. I'm almost done.
It's an incredible book. So anyway, and we also have to mention, of course, that
you get the date
got
right.
the Carnegie Hall concert,
Zankel Hall at Carnegie, yeah,
which is coming up
November
Sunday, November
19th? November 19th.
19th at 7:00. It's almost sold out.
Yeah,
I got my tickets the first. It went on sale July 11th at 11 a.m. I got my tickets at noon within 1 hour.
Damn.
And you got your tickets within a week, and it was almost, you couldn't even get.
It was like I'm back. Well, not that I need tickets, but for my people.
I know you're the musical director. You're the musical director.
And I only get row L because I don't think we're going to have
row L.
There's no guest list on this one because there's not enough seats.
I know. Richard told me. I know. So anyway, so if the Carnegie Hall event, if whoever's watching, if you want to go, there's not a lot of seats left, but it's not sold out yet.
I don't think it's sold out completely yet.
It's not sold out yet, but it's going to be Jose Feliciano.
Sure, we have Eric Andersen, Jose Feliciano.
Eric Andersen.
Janice Ian's going to show up. I don't know if she's going. I thought that she's going to sing, but Janice Ian's going to be there. Janice Ian.
Is she on there?
Yeah, she is. Janice Ian. She's not going to sing, but she's going to be there because she wants to be there.
Okay.
We just heard Steve Earle's showing up now. And, the list
Mary
is
Lee Cortez.
Mary Lee Cortez and Eric Amble, her husband. Who else is on there? There's a lot. A
lot of people. What? Okay. Is
Terry Roach. Roach.
Terry Roach. Right, Terry Roach. Well, we don't have the list in front of us.
No, but there's about 15, at least 15 performers on there, if not more. And we got to figure out how to squeeze them all in for 2 hours, but we will.
I wonder if John Sebastian's going to come.
So far I haven't heard that he's.
I know, I haven't heard either because, the summer stage, it was like.
Jenny Moldauer.
Huh?
Yeah. Jenny Moldauer is going to be there.
Oh, yeah, Jenny Moldauer, yeah. All right, so we'll see. We'll just stay tuned in. Richard's still working on it.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway.
You've got to stop inviting people to play.
I know, because you're the one who's going to, you have to deal with how you're going to get around. No, because you said it has to be 2 hours only. It's a 2 hour.
Pretty sure we have a pretty tight curfew.
Right, yeah. But it is a fundraiser for village preservation and for music cares.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's really good. And so I'm excited about that. And that's going to be great. And it is Sorrows and Promises. It's based on his book and album. Right.
Well, is it Music and Revolution? This one is the name of the concert.
Music and Revolution. Oh, right. It's not Sorrows and Promises. It's Music plus Revolution, based from his book. Right.
Yeah. Sorrows and Promises was our summer stage show.
Oh, that's right. You're right. So no, this is based on his book.
Right. This is based on.
Thanks for correcting me. Right. You're right. So anyway, the books, and anyway, if anybody hasn't read his book, the book is amazing. If you're interested in folk music in the 60s, read Richard Brown's book. And come to the show.
Come to the show because we're going to have fun. It's going to be great. And I'm not nervous about it yet. But boy, when we get close, there's going to be a lot of meshing of getting people together and people playing with each other. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We keep it pretty informal. A lot of us just stay on stage the whole time. And whether we back someone up or not.
Right.
So that's it. I think Happy Traum's going to be there.
Yeah, Happy Traum. That's right. Happy Traum will be there.
Don't forget Happy. And yeah.
I know, we just don't have the list in front of us. Oh, Jose Feliciano. I think I said that.
Yeah, we did say Jose. Yeah.
That's going to be great. He's so neat.
Yep.
He's a neat guy. So anyway, is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap it up?
No, I think we've covered my life in 50 minutes or less. It's pretty good.
Which is really good because the podcast I listened to was 2 hours.
Yeah, I know that one. We just kept going on and on because
I summed everything up pretty good.
Stewie and John are geeks like me, so we would just get
right.
into it.
Yeah, right. We're not too technical on my show, but anyway, You also are guest lecturer at NYU's Clive Davis Recorded Music Program.
Yeah, every year I get to bring all my great old microphones and show the kids. We start to give them a little ear training and the sound of this mic compared to that one, and let them sing on it. And that's a great class every year we do. We've been doing it for almost 12 years. It's hard to believe.
Oh, that's great. And then you won a Grammy. I don't know if we said that. I think we did.
Yeah, that was the cutting edge for Bob, Mixing Bob's.
For Bob Dylan, right.
If not for quality, at least for sheer quantity, for sure. That was 18
That's great.
CDs.
Well, you definitely keep busy, Steve.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not complaining. Believe me, I did about 7 box sets.
Oh, wow. And have you been in touch? So you worked with Jeff Rose and his
Yeah,
manager?
Jeff oversees everything, and he's
Okay.
so supportive and obviously likes what I'm doing. So I
That's
can't
great.
say enough about how great he has been and supportive through it. Because I mean, there was some serious mountains to climb with that stuff, because you listen, you're dealing with the holy grail of Bob Dylan. You don't
Right, exactly, right.
you don't want to get in the way, but yet you want to really make it better. And I think we were pretty successful. I had a lot of support on it. Thank God I wasn't doing it all by myself. And Jeff, we'd send mixes to Jeff. He goes, I don't know, Bob's too loud, and he would be right every time. So it was great to have that feedback. So I can't say enough about how great Jeff is.
That's great. That's really great. That's really great.
He really cares. I mean, he oversees every nook and cranny of his music, and it was an honor to be part of it. And I tried not to think about it too much and just do the work.
Right, exactly. You're working with Bob Dylan. I know, it's amazing. Yeah. It's incredible.
I never got to meet him. Never got to speak with him.
Oh, okay.
So if that was the next question, no.
Yeah, right. I was wondering if you ever got. Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, he's obviously listening to what we're doing, because
I know. So that's such an honor.
Yeah. Well, it really was, and it was. I hope there's more coming. Hopefully there'll be some more, because that was
great.
A big jump last couple of years. It was great.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're very busy.
Thanks for doing this, and I got to get back to it tomorrow. And
so you took the day you took the day off today.
It was so nice today. It was like, I don't really have to be back there. I mean,
so I picked a good day to do this with you.
Yeah, no, we did. We picked a good day, so it's good.
Okay, good. All right, well, it's good to see you, and I know I'll see you soon. See you soon.
Hopefully I'll see you before November.
Well, hopefully, you never know, right?
Right. No, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. It's been really a pleasure to learn more about you and to hear all about all your wonderful projects.
And thank you for taking the time and caring about it to do it. So I do appreciate it.
Okay, so I'll be talking to you soon.
All righty.
Okay. Bye. Okay. Bye-bye. Whoever's still watching, I hope you enjoyed the interview with him. Steve is so cool. Amazing career. So next week, I've got Mary Lee Cortez, who is really interesting. She has a new album that I said at the beginning of the show that she Hal Wilner produced. It's a very interesting album, and I don't have her bio in front of me, but anyway, she's amazing, and I'm really excited about my interview with her next week. And she's actually going to be at Richard Barone's this Carnegie Hall, but as of today, there's only a few tickets left. So whoever's watching, I don't know if you can get a ticket. It'll be sold at any minute. But thanks for watching live or in replay, and thank you for watching. He's a fascinating guy. So I'll see you all next week, either live or on replay, and keep smiling, keep sweet, join the smile revolution. And my ring light is getting in my glass. So I got to go like this more, so they're not like in my glasses. Anyway, here we go with my credits. And if you like my show, maybe you can share it or like it or subscribe to my YouTube channel, and tell your friends. So thanks so much. And here I go. If I can find wait a second, I got to find my credits. And I'll see you later. It's called the Smile Revolution that comes, goes round and back to you. So smile, 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 a simple smile will do. Smile, 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 it comes back to you. Bye.